The wake-up call. This is the imaginary story of Julian Mantle, a man who apparently had everything. Mantle was one of the most notable preliminary legal counselors in the U.S. He was making seven figures, had a very big house to himself, and a red Ferrari was amongst his most prized possessions. But none of this came easily to him. He worked extremely hard for it. Every day he was overwhelmed with a significant case. He took those very seriously and handled each procedure with utmost sincerity. The pressure of his work turned out to be overwhelming for him, and one day Mantle endured a serious cardiovascular failure and crumbled in the courtroom. After that occurrence, he decided to stay away from the courtroom, which was his specialty. Instead, he simply disappeared. 3 years later, he appeared at his previous associate John's office without intimating him. John could notice that Julian was completely transformed from his former personality. His physical appearance was greatly improved. His face was glowing radiantly. He was in a better state of mind. His attitude was very positive. He told John that he sold his mansion and his Ferrari and moved to India to find the purpose of his life. He told him how he traveled from town to town in India on foot and eventually ended up in Kashmir, next to the Himalayan mountains. A magical meeting with the sages of Savannah. In Kashmir, Mantle met Yogi Krishnan, who also happened to be a great trial lawyer. Yogi Krishnan told Julian, "I have realized that failure, whether of the personal, professional, or even spiritual kind, is essential to personal expansion. It brings inner growth and a whole host of psychic rewards. Never regret your past. Rather, embrace it as the teacher that it is." Yogi Krishnan also told Julian about some mysterious, mystical monks who have discovered some sort of system that will profoundly improve the quality of anyone's life. The monks are called the Sages of Savannah. Although it was very difficult to find, Mantle found the gathering of the monks in the mountains. One priest, Yogi Raman, shared his knowledge to Mantle. He taught him the 7 virtues of the Savannah system. Later, Mantle found that Yogi Raman is the leader of the Sages of Savannah. After staying with the monks for a few days, Mantle found out about the importance of life and learned about approaches to accomplish more noteworthy imperativeness and how to turn out to be imaginative and to feel increasingly satisfied. Once Mantle's learning was complete, the monks asked him of a favor to spread the wisdom to the West and beyond. The 7 virtues of Sages of Savannah. The beautiful garden, the lighthouse, the sumo wrestler, the pink wire covering the sumo wrestler, the gold stopwatch, the yellow roses, the path of diamonds, the beautiful garden. In the tales of Yogi Raman, the beautiful garden represents the mind. Learning how to control your mind is the foundational virtue of the Savannah system. Many individuals wind up littering their psychological gardens with squander, that is, negative musings or fears. You need to watch out for your psychological garden, and the most ideal approach to deal with it is to keep a check on what you feed it. Make your consciousness your garden keeper. You should start by improving your concentration, and the procedure is known as the heart of the rose as per the Sages of Savannah. This technique is similar to meditation. Essentially, with this technique, you have a fresh rose and you train yourself to only focus on the center of the rose. Whenever some distracting thoughts pop up, just ignore them and go back to staring at the rose. If you care for your mind, if you nurture it, and if you cultivate it just like a fertile, rich garden, it will blossom far beyond your expectations. But if you let the weeds take root, lasting peace of mind and deep inner harmony will always elude you. It's the lighthouse. The lighthouse represents the purpose and the goals. As the lighthouse directs ships in times of darkness and helps prevent accidents and shipwrecks, your goals offer you guidance and refuge when the sea becomes rough. On goals, Yogi Raman teaches Julian, anyone who wishes to improve the quality of their inner as well as their outer worlds would do well to take out a piece of paper and start writing out their life aims. At the very moment that this is done, natural forces will come into play which start to transform these dreams into reality. The most ideal approach to understanding your life's importance is to set plainly characterized objectives. Here's the 5 advanced strategy created by the sages to accomplish individual reason. To start with, you should make a psychological picture of the result. The second step is to put pressure on yourself, however positively. The third step is to develop a timeline. To get your objective going, you must have a cutoff time in sight. The fourth step is called the magic rule of 21. This means that it usually takes about 21 days of doing something every day in order to turn it into a habit. The last step is to simply appreciate the procedure. The sumo wrestler. The sumo wrestler represents the kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese word that implies steady, ceaseless improvement. It's everything about opening your latent capacity. For this righteousness, the sages made 10 stages known as the 10 customs of brilliant living. The first is the custom of daily solitude, and it specifies that your day-by-day schedule must include a snapshot of quiet. Second is the custom of rawness. The point of this stage is to get your body going and focus on breathing properly. Third is the custom of live nourishment. You should just eat live nourishments, so it's ideal to follow a vegetarian diet. Fourth is the custom of abundant knowledge. For an amazing duration, you should continue learning, so figure out how to keep your brain invigorated. The fifth is the custom of personal reflection. This is tied in with taking a gander at how you carry on consistently. As the book says, after all, how could I ever hope to improve myself and my life if I hadn't even taken the time to figure out what I was supposed to improve? Sixth is the custom of early awakening. You don't need more than 6 hours of sleep in a day. Waking up early may require a bit of suffering to train yourself, but the pain will be worth it in the long term. Next up is the custom of music. Good music always lifts your mindset. Number 8 is the custom of the spoken word. This is tied in with making an individual mantra to motivate you. Ninth is the custom of a consistent character. The purpose of this progression is to ensure that you generally follow your standards at all times. Last is the custom of simplicity. Lead a basic life and spotlight on your needs and significant exercises. The pink wire cable. In the tales, the sumo wrestler is covered with a pink wire cable which represents discipline. There are many advantages to having self-control. Julian teaches, when you have self-control, you will have the resolve to do the things you have always wanted to do. To cultivate self-discipline and willpower, Yogi Raman suggests Mantle to start taking the vow of silence, the golden stopwatch. This represents the fifth virtue of the Savana framework, which is tied in with regarding your time. The sages, however expelled from society, completely regard time and focus on its passing. Time is our most prized possession. You can buy other material things even after losing it, but you can never buy time. Thus, it's essential to utilize your time effectively and plan how you spend it. To do this, you could take 15 minutes before you head to sleep to design out the next day. Another instruction is to realize when to say no. Live every day as though it were your last. That way, you won't wind up sitting around idly consenting to a movement that you would prefer not to take part in. The yellow roses. As Mantle crumbled at work under the heaviness of his obligations, the sumo in the tale went oblivious and tumbled to the ground. However, he stirred loaded with vitality on account of the aroma of the yellow roses. Mantle says, the flowers will remind you of the ancient Chinese proverb, a little bit of fragrance always clings to the hand that gives you roses. The meaning is clear: when you work to improve the lives of others, you indirectly elevate your own life in the process. Subsequently, the yellow roses represent the sixth virtue in the Savana framework, the idea of benevolently serving others. The priest said that you ought to consistently be thoughtful and merciful toward others as it improves your own life. Spread the fragrance of kindness and selflessness. The path of sparkling diamonds. This virtue tells us about living in the present. As we travel through life, the way will be beautified with little ponders, that is, precious stones. To value the precious stones, you should practice gratitude every day. That implies continually valuing your well-being, your family, and even the sound of the feathered creatures singing in the trees. Nothing is a higher priority than this moment. Mantle teaches, never put off happiness just for the sake of achievement. Never put off the things that are important for your well-being and satisfaction to a later time. Today is the day to live fully, not when you win the lottery or when you retire. Never put off living.